Welcome to the Fast Track Listening Program. The ideas presented here are intended to assist in developing a strong and profitable business for IBOs, powered by Amway and affiliated with Marker Man Productions. Enjoy the following message.
So I thought I'd start off with just a few things. There was something that was coming out on Facebook, and I just thought it was kind of funny because, you know, we asked, how many of you have children? Put up your hands. How many of you have children? Okay. Don't you know, right, if you want an honest answer, who do you ask? Right? You ask the little guys or the little girls. Well, anyways, this teacher says, hey, how old is your father? His answer, he's 6 years old. What? How's that possible? He became a father only when I was born. There you go, right? I mean, that makes sense, right? A teacher says, Maria, go to the map and find North America. Maria goes, here it is. Correct, the teacher says. Now, class, who discovered America? The class goes, Maria. Again, you know, this is like, you know, there you go. Teacher, Donald, what is the chemical formula for water? Donald looks at her square in the face and says, HIJKLMNO. The teacher says, what are you talking about? You said yesterday, he says to her, you said yesterday that it's H2O. All makes perfect sense to me, right? The teacher says, Clyde, your composition of my dog is exactly the same as your brother's. Did you copy his? Clyde looks at her and goes, no ma'am, it's the same dog. You know, like this all makes sense, right? So when you start thinking about stuff like that, I'm going to turn this off in case Jody sends me a message in the middle of all this, you know, and I got to take the call. You know, I've had to do that before. And, but anyways, I'm really glad to be here. We had Lee and Cindy Hurst up, last weekend. They just electrified everybody. And, you know, I think it's a real blessing when you can come to an event as I think it was, who was up here? Marsha, she said you could be anywhere. Right? And we could be anywhere on a Saturday night, couldn't we? We could be partying, we could have a great time, and that's cool. But did our futures get anywhere? I'm not saying don't, because I love to do that. Right? But here, this is a different deal. Something's going to touch you. Some speaker tonight's going to touch your heart. And Jody always told me if I could come out of a seminar with 3 to 4 to 5 good things I learned, worth every cent. Worth every cent. So what I'm going to do tonight is we're on a big tear in MMP to get people out talking more to people. Because you guys are the best kept secret in the whole world. You know, it's like when we walk down the street, when I was a tactical officer or a police officer, I could certainly be probably the most powerful person on the face of the earth. I mean, that's the way it works, right? And that's cool. But I couldn't help anybody with their finances, their relationship, or anything like that bothers them 24 hours a day until I came here. I shut up for once and I listened to a civilian. This was extremely hard for me to do. Right? And so that's the power that we collectively in this room have. The problem is nobody knows it. Not even your best friends know it. They know you do something. They know you're in the Amway business. They know you got all these little products. You brush your teeth, they're pretty, and you put on deodorant, and you do all this, and you look a lot younger than everybody else, and all this other stuff. That's true. I can tell you that. I will be 60 in October, and I have guys I love dearly that were on my team for a long time. I look at them, and they look well past 60. Really well past. I said, it's a good thing I showed up. I know CPR, because, you know, we don't know if we're getting through this dinner, right? But it's the vitality that comes with everything. We have the best vitamins. We have the best food. We have the best products. Now, my wife, who has passed away, as you all know, she would not let me say that, but now she's not here. So I've done this a few times already, but I knew she knows, and, I probably will have to pay the price for that. So, but isn't that true? If your vitamins are so good, would you, warranty them for 180 days? So then shut up. Right? Now we have courses to help you put that out a little bit better than that. But I mean, this is hardcore. This is who we are, right? And how many of you have wanted to tell somebody to shut up in your whole life? I mean, yeah, I know some of them might be sitting beside you. I totally get that, right? But I tell you what, they'll get you back, just so you know. All right? So Lee was up talking about contacting, talking with Steve and Joe about contacting and everything else. And I'm sitting there going, okay, what's the deal? We got the best kept secret in the world. How do we get it out of our mouths? Well, we got to open our mouths. That's the thing we have to do. So tonight, I thought I'd talk to you about the definition of an interview, or I call it the chat. The chat, okay? I want to talk about what it means to nod your head, to smile, to engage in people. I want to talk about questions. I want to talk about being in control of the conversation. I want to talk about things to look for in the person you're talking to. Because you know what? They give you every sign you need, and you totally miss them. Because you're focused on what's coming out of your mouth next. It's what happens. It happens to us all. And then I want to tell you the big one. Oh, this is the big one. Where do I find people? Right? And so we're going to go through that. But let me tell you, first of all, interviews, I have been around some amazing interview specialists. These guys, one of them was a female, they could get you to tell, how many of you know the psychic thing? Right? They're experts at that too. In fact, they can get you, I can pretty well, if I talk to you long enough, I'll know everything about you. And you'll be going, how did you know that? Because you answer questions in a certain way. So what happens with us is if you look at the definition of interview, a formal consultation usually to evaluate qualifications. That's what an interview is. How many of you have been through interviews, right? That's the way it is. Are they comfortable? Don't you hate it? Right? And we used to have psychological evaluations every 3 months. I love those. Because sometimes I go in and go, today, I'm just not feeling right. I mean, you can have a little bit of fun with people, right? Well, up to a point. But what happens is it tends to be serious. It tends to be one way. It tends to be intense. Do you want to give them any of that information? The answer is no. Right? And so we don't want that. In fact, that's the issue. Because that's what you guys are all doing. That's what you're doing. They don't want to be interviewed by you. They don't even know you. So what do? We got to get around that. Well, an interview really is not that way. A meeting at which information is obtained. Are they good for us? Are we good for them? That's the interview I want to talk to you about tonight. And it's not an interview, it's a chat. Chat, 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 chat. I mean, when you say, hey, let's meet for a chat, do you feel the interview thing in there? No, right? It's like, some of you guys who are looking maybe for a mate, you got to get good at the art of the chat. I'm just telling you, being a professional in such things, you got to get good at doing that, right? And I'll tell you, if you're a guy, talk half as much as you think you need to. And listen twice as much as you think you should. And I'm telling you what, I got the most beautiful girl in the world because of that. Right? I'm a champion. I'm better than Jimmy Johnson's NASCAR championship. I'm better than the Eagles. Right? Because I did it for 35 years. They just won their first one. Beat my Cowboys too. It's terrible. Right? So tonight, I want to talk to you about learning to chat. I want to talk to you about learning to chat. I'm not saying close a conversation. I'm saying learning to chat. And you got to do it because that's the fun. The fun is finding out about people. The fun is finding out about what they do, what they like. Maybe finding out about their heart. And if you become good at that, you'll never have trouble putting people in your business. You look at Lee. Lee can contact anybody. Steve can contact Joe. Kelly, Marcia. Anybody that's ever been successful in here, they got to be good at this part. I love that part. I love that part. And there's 300 and, I guess with our 35 million and the rest of yours, like there's 370 million people here. And I'm telling you what, 98% of them are just freaking mad. Right? They are. That's what they are. And they're trying to figure out how to make more money because isn't that what they're doing almost every day? They're trying to make it, that's what we do. How do I make more money? Because they think it'll free up their time and give them a better life. That's just life. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So how many of you in this room tonight have ever talked to anybody else outside of this room? Put up your hands. Okay. That's a good one, right? How many of you have you ever asked them their opinions on something? Anybody? Okay, right? Okay. How many of you freely gave your opinion if somebody asked you? How many of you done that? Okay, well, that's pretty good. Okay. All right. How many of you have ever learned things that you did not know because you talked to a person? How many of you done that? Okay, we're good. We're doing good. Okay. I have a degree in military history. But my real passion is social history. I love the dirt. Because I'll tell you, it doesn't matter if they're kings, queens, popes, whatever. Right? When you start talking about their families and stuff, that's where all the excitement is. You know, and I sorry about that. I probably shouldn't have said that. But I tell you what, you got to get into that stuff. Right? How many of you, though, have ever had a number of conversations that made you feel uncomfortable? Anybody? Maybe a few, but like maybe one or two, but not 100, right? No, because you would get the heck away from those people. All right? Well, what happens is that doesn't happen very much. So, you guys have all put up your hands with everything you need to do to be a diamond, and you know you're going to run into the dweeb heads, as I call them. Right? And they're there. I'm sorry. God put them there just to make you be stronger, quicker, faster, and better. Right? And that's what we do. So, the whole idea is we want the chat to be an enlightening experience. I want you to be so thrilled that you talk to anybody and you found out about them. Because what you're doing is you're finding out about God's greatest work. Right? It's beyond me that we kill each other and we do all these things and we don't like somebody because they have red hair or they don't have blue eyes. I mean, we can go all through the whole thing. So where I come from, I read the Bible. Okay? I saw what happened when he gets mad. Like a bunch of people get turned to salt. Not a good day for you. Right? Not a good day. So I say when we inflict our will on other people, you're making the big fella mad. And I know how to duck. I got through my life doing that. And so shouldn't we want to find out about this person who's walking right by you? Hey, what do you do? Who are you? I was just at the auto show yesterday. We couldn't even get out of the first level. People are talking to me. I wasn't talking to them. They're talking to me, but I make them feel great. Because that's your job. Your job is not to access information for your little business. Your position with the chat is to make them feel great to know you. You have to be the breath of fresh air in their day. You have to be that person that they go, you would not believe who I met. Now I know, yeah, we got a bunch of nicknames and they're all superheroes in this business, but I mean, so I remember one time I was talking to a guy, he goes, are you Captain Freedom? I said, yes, I am. And I said, how do you know that? He says, a friend of mine was here, and there's a coffee shop we all go to, and he says, you came in with that bike. I said, yeah. He says, they said they called you Captain Freedom. I said, that's true. He said, why did they call you Captain Freedom? I said, why do you think they call me Captain Freedom? Because I don't know. Well, if you were Captain Freedom, what would you think? Freedom, I'd be probably free. So would that be money, time, what? Because both? So you're not Captain Freedom, right? He goes, no. I said, would you like to be? He says, maybe. And it went from there. He's in our business today. Right? And so Why? Because I was interested in this person. You see, that person that's in front of you may not be the one you're looking for. But who they know could be your best friend. Your best friend. And so you got to get good at the chat. You do. You got to get good at the chat. So, here's the deal. We're all playing volleyball. How many of you play volleyball in your lives? Okay, we play volleyball. Okay. All right. I love playing at a high level. I love playing that game. Okay, we're going to this tournament. Right? But it's flu season. We're now 2 people short. And we can't enter this. Well, we could, but it won't matter. We can't enter this with 4 people. What are we going to do? We're all going to look at each other, and what are we going to say? Who do we know? Right? And we're going to get on our phones or text people and go, dude, can you walk, breathe, stand up? Because that's what we're looking for. Right? And so we've done this our whole lives. The whole deal is that if there's a need, you'll do it. So if we're going to get disqualified from this tournament because we were 2 people short, what are we going to, it won't matter. You don't care how many people you have to phone or you have to text to get 2 people there, correct? Okay. Same principles here. You are trying to find, well, initially you're trying to go platinum, but you're trying to find 3 to 5 groups that will do what you do but better. They will do what you do, but they'll lead better. Because if you're any good at teaching, they should be better. 3 to 5 gives you a fairly sizable income in upwards in the $200,000 to $400,000. When I was in Emerald, we had 4 groups. We made $250,000 a year. That's what we made. This is numbers. I have friends of mine who are super number people, and Kim was a numbers person. This dude right here, I'm a serious numbers person because my numbers, it was either death or not. So I figured my numbers were more important than their numbers, but I like numbers. I like the results. I like the spontaneity of certain things or spontaneity of certain things, but I like to know that if I have to talk to 10 to find 1, then I'm talking to 10. If I have to talk to 100 to find 1, I'm going to talk to 100 people. But if I do that 6 times, I'm going to have 6 groups. I don't have to ever worry about retirement. I don't have to worry about anything like that because I'll make more money when I'm 80 than I am now. And it's all because of the chat. You, we, us are not chatting enough with people. You're shutting your mouths and you're thinking they should be able to feel the business emanating out of me. The only thing they're feeling coming out of you is maybe not good. Right? And so I'm just telling you. So please do not interview people. Please do not interview them. Please chat them up, chat them down, chat them in, chat them out. I don't care what you do. You'll just get better every time you chat. And when you chat, you smile. That's what you do. And you listen. When you interview, it's the old head going up thing. I don't know why they do that, but that's what they do, right? And it's all about asking the right questions. We're going to get into that. But I'll tell you, what you want to do more than anything else is make sure that you are not ignorant to them. Ever. I don't care how bad they are. You need to say, thank you so much. I appreciated talking with you. Now, I know in the back of your head you're going, and I never will talk to you ever again in my life, and I hope you get run over by a bus when I leave. I totally get that. I totally get that you're going to say something like that, and maybe sometimes that's very healthy. I don't know. But my wife, when we first got in the business, when I first met her at York University, I said, if you marry me, we'll dance all over the world. She was a professional dancer. I was pretty good. Hey, white guys can dance. Just not as good, but we can dance. Fred, my friend Fred Astaire, he could dance. Gene Kelly could dance. And so, but I love to dance. I do. And so when I met her, I said, if you marry me, we're going to dance all over the world. I'm thinking I am lying through my teeth. And this woman said, okay. Like she believed I would. And then in my occupation as a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer and a bunch of other things I did. And then we saw this business. We would dance at regimental balls. That's really cool. I'm telling you, I look pretty darn good. Big red serge, little tiny, it's just weird. Anyways, and the girls have beautiful gowns. It was like that. Who doesn't want to do that? Right? And if you ask any young kids, if you had the chance to do that, would you do that? Just once. dance. Right? Be the belle of the ball. How cool is that? Right? So then when we got into this business, we started like going pretty good. But she was quiet. She was very smart. She was exceptionally beautiful. I was smarter because I found her. So we started to grow in this business. Then we started to travel all around the world. And wherever we went, we danced. And we danced. And we danced. And when we danced, people got off the dance floor. Because I would sail her around the room. It was magical. And I loved that. And that all started because of the chat. Because I chatted her. Plus, I also knew how smart she was. And I wanted her to be my wife. And so when we get the chance to build this business, this was perfect. Who doesn't like talking and making money? Who doesn't like that? We all do. This is what we do. Right? There's no special degree here. There's no special, like my job. That was incredibly crazy. Here I just have to have a cup of coffee. I don't get shot at. I'm just telling you. Nobody wants to take my head off my shoulders. Nobody wants to run into my funny little car. Right? They all want to go, can you help me? Because that's what everybody you talk to is saying to you. Can you help me? Would you help me? Dude, can you like show me how to do this? And that's what the chat is all about. So Kimberly gets going in this thing. She says, I'll do everything. I'll do the paperwork. I'll teach people about products, but I don't want to ever speak on the stage and I don't want to talk to a lot of people. I said, absolutely, you never have to do that. I'll do it all. Right? I knew, because I knew how gifted she was. I saw the talent. So then we go diamond. She hadn't ever sponsored anybody. We do it together, right? That sort of thing. She comes into my office in my house. She goes, I'm a diamond, right? I said, you are. She says, yeah, but I'm a diamond because of us. I said, that's true. I want to be a diamond because of me. I said, what do you mean? She says, I don't contact anybody. How am I going to teach my group how to contact anybody? We got lots of women. She says, I know you're good looking and everything else, but you're not like a woman. I said, I don't want to be a woman. I wouldn't have a clue how to be one. I'm happy being a man. And so she goes out to do this. So now Kim's very incremental. She goes out the first 3 weeks. All she did was say hi to people. And she'd come home and tell me how many people she said hi to. Didn't say anything else other than that. Next 3 weeks, hi to, engage in conversation. Come back, tell me about the conversation. Didn't talk to anybody about the business. About 2.5 months into it, she goes, I have a plan. I said, I have a plan. No, she says, I have a plan to show somebody. It's a single mom of 3 kids. I said, great, when are we doing this? She goes, I'm doing this. You can stay home. I was hurt for 6.32 seconds. Because then I started thinking, wait a second. What happens if I'm not there? She goes out there, sponsors this lady. She goes Emerald. I am now eye candy. Right? I'm totally cool with that. She goes out, her first plan. I'm going to make you sick. The lady gets on right there. Kim's spoken all over the world. She's an amazing speaker. She's got this artistry. She's doing all this stuff. And the thing she just didn't do was sponsor somebody. There's nothing like that in the whole world, you guys. I have been blown up. I've been knocked out of balconies. I've had cars explode around. I've had all this crazy stuff you see on TV, and it's worse. And the adrenaline goes like through the top of your head. So I got a bald spot right here. Go right through that. But there is nothing like, other than telling your partner, your wife or your husband, your children, that you love them. There's nothing like showing a plan to somebody and they get involved. There's nothing like it. You'll be going, that dude is so right. I'm telling you, I've gone at my death's door, sick as a dog. Showed the plan, I go back out there, I feel like awesome, nothing's hurting. It's because of the possibility. The possibility is the biggest drug you'll ever take. It's the possibility of making this work that brings you in on a Saturday night? Can I do it? And we know you can. So Kim became an awesome contactor. In fact, there's a bunch of CDs where she talks about it. She is amazing. She could do that. And then she started teaching about how to contact. And we have a lot of strong women in our business today that attribute and can source it back to her. And watching her on her journey. And she was a diamond and she was afraid. Right? So, relax. It's not a big deal that you don't want to talk to somebody. So here's some of the questions you need to ask people, right? You want to talk about like-minded situations, and I'll get through this and stuff, but you want to ask people what are they looking for. Somehow in that chat, you've got to find out what they're looking for. Where are they not satisfied in their life? They'll actually tell you. It's amazing what we will tell a stranger. Truly, right? In fact, we'll take a stranger's information above our doctors. Right? Because I read it on the internet. Awesome. Right? I mean, I've seen that all the time. I don't ever do that, man. I just go that way. Right? Another one of the best questions to ask somebody, do you live in the area? How hard is that? Like people go, well, how do I start these conversations? Do you live in the area? Yeah, I live in the area, but how do I start the conversation? You just did. Do you live in the area? What do you do? I love that. I love when they ask me what I do. It's crazy. I can play a little bit. I know I'm bad. I do it, but I shouldn't. Do you enjoy what you do? Oh, that's the Holy Grail question. Do you enjoy what you do? Do you feel you're paid what you're worth? Do you enjoy what you do? Do you feel you're paid what you're worth? I have never had anybody in my almost 60 years ever say they were paid what they're worth. If you do, run away from that person. Right? Another one of my, did a talk a long time ago about business owners. Now, conventional business owners can take Monday off, right? They actually can take Friday off. But there's one day in the week they don't ever take off. And that's Wednesday. You know why? Because that's the middle of the week and they need to make sure everything is okay. So I always tell people, so, Joe, I mean, obviously you're from around here, that's great. You get wife, children, and everything. What would you do on a Wednesday if you didn't have to be anywhere? Shut up then. Shut up. Shut. The chat is now it's their turn to dance. You got to get good. If you're going to dance, you got to make sure they want to dance with you. You look pretty stupid if they're out there standing and you're dancing. How many of you have ever seen that, right? You're dancing. And they're going, he asked me to dance. I bless him, right? So it doesn't work right. Talk about you in all your questions. You can do this. I remember I met a guy, he said to me, what would you do on a Wednesday if you could do anything? I didn't know what to say. And this guy's listening, right? Because they're listening. So then I started thinking, I'd probably ride motorcycles wherever I wanted. I'd go out to dinner wherever I wanted. I'd have my wife with me for as long as I could. What would you do? What would you do? See, we can go out there and contact everybody. Just 6 ways to Sunday if you want to. Go ahead. Be a bull in the candy, was it candy shop? A bull in a, whatever. We won't go there. But anyways, you can go out there and do that if you want. You can go out and lay waste to people. But if I ever find you and I say, what was their goal, dream, want, or need, and you don't have a clue, all you did was pee them off. That's what you did. You were not a resource at all. The perfect contact, Jody Victor, we can say Jody's perfect at a lot of things, and he's not, and we know that. And he'll tell you that he's not. Jody is probably one of the best conversationalists I've ever seen. I learned a lot from him. I know a lot about a lot of things. I do. I've been on the planet for this long that I probably should, right? But I like to know what you like. That's my drive. That's why I chat. What do you like? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you mad? What makes you glad? Right? It's crazy. Ask open-ended questions. If you say, hey, what would you do on a Wednesday? And the guy starts telling you, and then he stops and you say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. Or why would you say that? These are things you want them to talk more and more and more. Because if they talk to you more and more, number one, they like you. Number two, they know you're interested because you're not interrupting them. And number three, they could be developing a friendship in front of their eyes that they don't even know about yet that's going to last for 70, 80, 90, or 100 years. So I will say, in my opinion, this is just me. The most important thing about our business is not getting people in. It's not helping them achieve different levels. It's not making people financially free, have all the time in the world. That is not what we do. I know a lot of you going to, like, dude, that's what we do. No, that's not what we do. Our job is to unbelievably impact our fellow human beings that are around us with the promise of something that is possible. That's what we do. At the auto show yesterday, I met a guy who's in charge of Dodge Ram, and so I love trucks, I love all that sort of stuff. And we're talking. He's 27 years old, highly accomplished. And I said to him right away, I said, "You've been in the military." He says, "How do you know that?" I said, "I can tell." And he was in the militia. That's what we have up our way. And he says, "Nobody's ever said that to me before." So, but I said, "No, I come from there, so it's easy for me to find out." "Why did you get into car sales?" He says, "I love the people, I love the challenge." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "What happens if, like, you had $20 million in the bank? Would you do that?" He goes, "No." He says, "I love my family." I said, "Do you get much time with them?" He goes, "No." I said, "How come?" "Because I got to do this." I said, "What happens if you could make as much money doing that, like 20 hours a week, and you could spend time with your family?" He says, "That's not possible." I said, "It is possible because I'm standing right in front of you." He said, "Well, how do you do that?" I said, you have a kitchen, bathroom, laundry room?" He says, "Yeah." He says, I got that in my house." I said, you ever make any money from that?" He goes, "No, I spend money doing that." I said, "That's right. But how about if you could make money? How about if that's your deal? Not selling Rams, but you're helping people do that. Do you have a bigger target than selling them Rams?" He goes, "Of course, everybody does that." I said, "Do you know anything about the Amway business?" He's from India. He goes, "Yeah." He says, "I know a little bit about the Amway business." I said, "No, you don't know anything about the Amway business." He says, "What do you mean I don't know anything?" I said, "If you knew everything about the Amway business or anything about the Amway business, you'd be doing it." He says, "Really?" He says, "You're pretty confident." I said, 24 years says I got this. He said, "When can we sit down?" So on Monday, when I go back home, I'm going to sit down with him and his girlfriend. That's what we're going to do. You know what? But I told him, I said, "You're spectacular." He said, "Well, thanks." I said, "No, I'm not doing it for, like, thank you, Gary, for the nice compliment." I said, "You're spectacular because you're fighting for your dreams and you're helping people and you love your family and, like, dude, and you're good looking, which is not normal lots of times." He says, "Okay, that's weird." I said, "I want to be weird. I'm good at weird." And then two of my guys come by. And so I had to tell them that we were not partners. It was one of those things, but that was okay. So, not that that's a bad thing, right? So the whole chat thing is find out, I know this is a little over the top, but you want to find out what their guts say. That's what you want to find out. You want to do a really good contact? I should be able to meet you, and you should be able to give me a darn 8x10 or like a 6-page text on everything about them. Now you just can tell me about everything about you, because that's all you know. And I'm telling you that because I love you. You tell me about how great your contact was and what you did and everything. That's useless to me. I already know you know how to do that. I need you to tell me about them and why and where you took your shot to get them to listen to Steve Victor. I told this guy, if you don't listen to that 6-minute video, and I will know, then we won't be meeting at all. Because it tells me we have an integrity problem. Not we, but you. It was a good point. Okay. And actually, before I got to the bike show, I was at the car show, I went to the bike show, he'd already checked the audio. So I told him, I love that. This business, and I tell people out there, this is business, never hurt my job. I never lost any friends, ever. I could have stood to lose a few of them, right? I never lost a single friend. I never made anybody mad that I know of. And all my relatives are really happy I do this business. Y'all get that part? Okay. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people in this world really happy Jody Victor does this business. Because I've been with him when that's happened. I'm your 7th cousin on your mom's 4th side, 16th removed. Right? What does Jody do, though? I wouldn't give him anything. He'll give him $100. I don't know if that means to leave him. I think that's what that means. Because if I don't give him anything, they're going to come back. Right? So it took me a while to do that. So, here's the big thing. Here's what you guys are all, I'm running out of time. I'm having too much fun. Places. This is serious. This is like millions of dollars in my hand. Okay, so where do you go to chat with people? Okay, places that interest you. Da-da-da. That you know maybe a little bit. Maybe you know more than they do. Outdoor events. I don't know. What's going on around here? Lots of stuff, right? Go on and search, say, North Canton, Ohio. What's going on this weekend? Pick a few events to go you know nothing about. And then go ask a whole bunch of questions. Be dumb. Dumb pays. Right? And, let's see here. Places you've never been. Yeah, that's it. So you can ask questions. Okay, grocery stores. Okay, I'm out there. I'm a single guy. I'm grocery shopping. You know what I am the best at? No, I got a little sideways the other day. I asked this lady, I said, why do you have blue egg things? She goes, what? I said, I have pink. Mine are in a pink box. Why are yours in a blue box? She goes, they're bigger. I go, can I see yours? She opens it up and she goes, you're new, right? I said, yeah. And she had this pizza. So I said, is that any good? She goes, oh. It's like, now she's like mother henning me. It's awesome. I know everything. But I'm dumb. Right? And so I said, what do you do? She says, I'm a clinical psychologist. I said, you would so want to interview me. She goes, I am thinking that right now. I said, do you like brush your teeth? She goes, yep. I said, you wash your clothes? She goes, she had tied. And I said, do you like put stuff on your body in some way, shape, or form? She goes, yep. I said, you ever make any money at that? She goes, are you weird? I said, no, I'm wealthy. Right? So I got her name. I said, I want you to know that I will give you information, and this is totally on a professional level. I never had to deal with this before, because I would always tell them, if you want to know how smart I am, wait till you meet my wife. I can't do that anymore, right? So she was wonderful. She's been married for a long time. She has like 4 kids. And she said, 2 of my kids are really looking for something. They're like 24, 25. I said, and still living at home. She goes, yeah. Right? And so it worked out perfectly. Okay, so there you go. Ask people's opinions. That's what I did. Trade shows, car shows, boat shows, stuff like that. Coffee shops. If you go into a coffee shop, look for somebody to talk to. Say, hey, how's that coffee? Like, ask, they got stuff in their hands. This is your segue. Do that. Be the person that changes their day. If you're going to chat with people, be the person that changes their day. In the conversation, I apologize for going over a few minutes, but in the conversation, here's what you're looking for. Frustration, independent streak, not afraid of anything, cool to share their goals or dreams. They're not afraid to talk to you about that. They have a sense of adventure. Life is either a bold adventure or it is nothing, right? They want to talk about lifestyle, maybe security. They like to help others, right? They're inquisitive. They're go-getters. They're not happy with their jobs. They will tell you within 5 minutes if they're not happy with their jobs, so you know, right? So here's your deal. You listen with the intent to direct because you want to know where they're going to go. How am I going to get you there? You're going to listen with the intent to learn. You're going to learn about them so you can maybe be more well-rounded in how you direct them. And the last one, you have to listen with the intent to deliver your message. Can I ask you a question? That's the cut. Everybody in my era remembers Columbo. He'd leave the house, and just before he left the door, he turned around and said, "Can I ask you a question?" And that was usually enough to hang the guy, right? The other thing is smile, nod, and a good handshake. Ladies, a good handshake is important, okay? Guys, do not crush women's hands. I just had a guy who tried to crush my hand. I you know the grip things? I max those out. Guys in my, that's what we do. So he's trying to crush my hand. I'm thinking, what do you do? No, I'm going to crush your hand. And that's what I did. Kim would have killed me, but I did it. I said, do you always shake hands that strong? He was in a little muscle shirt, little tiny guy. Right? Sorry, I shouldn't say that. And he says, no, I was just grabbing your hand. He says, but I'm never going to do that again. I said, that's probably not a good idea. I said, you need to just, it's just a, little one of those. You know it, right? So be careful with that. And you want to make sure that you are the breath of fresh air in their day. I don't care if you've had everything that's happened to you, that's happened to me. I lost my wife. That sucks. We'll talk about that in the second part. I hope I can help you all, right? But I tell you this, I have great joy in my heart. I have a big mission in front of me. I am taking care of my family's legacy, and you need to get off your butt, get out there every day, chat to people, and listen with people, and direct people, because they are your best friends in waiting. Have a good night.
This is a copyrighted program of Markerman Productions.